I'll never forget the night they came for Akon. Torches in hand, faces twisted in rage, they dragged him from his small hut. He didn't fight back, not even when they tied him to the big Iroko tree at the edge of the village. He's cursed, someone shouted. He'll destroy us all if we don't stop him. It started a few months ago when strange things began happening in our village. Chickens disappeared, crops wilted overnight, and people fell sick without warning. The elders said a bad spirit had entered our midst, and somehow, all eyes turned to Akon. Akon was a quiet man, always helping those in need. He fixed roofs after storms, shared his food with hungry children, and even cared for the sick when no one else would. But his kindness didn't matter when fear took hold of the village. They whispered that his good deeds were a cover for something dark. I knew Akon well. He had saved my brother's life during the last malaria outbreak, staying by his side when everyone else was too afraid to catch the illness. But even I began to doubt him when my own farm failed, and my goats vanished. The village was falling apart, and we needed someone to blame. That night, as they prepared to set the tree on fire, the sky split open with a thunderclap so loud it shook the earth. Rain poured down like a flood, drenching the torches and scattering the crowd. In the chaos, Akon's voice rose above the storm. I am not your enemy, he shouted, his eyes shining with something I can only describe as unshakable peace. The spirits are testing us, but they are also watching. You must not fail this test. No one dared to touch him after that. The storm didn't stop until the morning, and by then, something strange had happened. The missing chickens returned. The crops started to grow again. And the sick began to heal. The elders said the spirits had forgiven us, but I knew the truth. Akon wasn't cursed. He was protected. And though the village never apologized, they left him alone after that night. I've told this story to remind people that fear can blind us, and the good among us often suffer the most. Akon left the village soon after, but his kindness and courage stayed with me. I still wonder if we deserved someone like him. Some say he was just a man. Others believe he was something more. But I know one thing for sure, Akon didn't need the village's approval. He had something much stronger on his side. After Akon left, life in the village returned to normal, or so it seemed. The crops grew lush, the animals thrived, and the sickness that had plagued us was gone. But there was a heaviness in the air, like the weight of an unspoken truth. I couldn't stop thinking about him. Where had he gone? How was he surviving on his own in the wilderness? I'd heard whispers from hunters about a small hut deep in the forest, where smoke curled up into the sky every morning. They said strange things happened there, wounds healed faster, lost travelers found their way, and wild animals refused to harm anyone who passed nearby. One evening, I decided to go and see for myself. The guilt of what we'd done gnawed at me, and I needed to make things right. I packed some food and set out at dawn, the forest quiet except for the rustling leaves and the distant calls of birds. It took hours to find the place. The hut was small and simple, surrounded by wildflowers and a garden that seemed untouched by human hands. As I approached, I saw him sitting outside, weaving a basket. He looked up, and for a moment, I froze. "You've come," he said, as if he'd been expecting me. "I'm sorry," I blurted out, tears welling in my eyes. "For everything. For what we did to you?" Akon smiled, and it wasn't the smile of someone holding a grudge. It was warm, forgiving, like the sun breaking through storm clouds. "You were afraid," he said simply. "Fear makes people do terrible things. But you're here now, and that means something." He invited me to sit with him, and we talked until the sun dipped below the trees. He spoke of the forest, of its beauty and its dangers, and of how he'd found peace there. "The spirits don't punish us," he said. "They teach us. They show us what we need to see, even when it hurts." I stayed the night in the hut, and for the first time in months, I slept without nightmares. In the morning, Akon gave me a small carved figure, a token of protection, and sent me on my way. When I returned to the village, I told the elders what I'd seen. Some believed me, others scoffed, but I didn't care. I knew the truth, and that was enough. Over time, the story of Akon became a legend. Parents told it to their children as a warning against fear and a lesson in kindness. And though he never returned, his presence remained, like the steady rhythm of the river or the whisper of the wind through the trees. Akon wasn't just a man. He was a reminder that even in the darkest times, goodness can shine through, and that no storm, no matter how fierce, can snuff out the light of a true spirit.